sweep the floor. Elbow, fist, out. Sweep the floor. Elbow, fist, out. Sweep the floor.
For me, I can look at one single individual, look at what they're going through, come up with a solution for that one single individual, put it inside of an actual framework, and then take that same framework and look at it on an actual whole community scale.
Living inside that environment, San Bernardino, California, it's not really much there, you know what I'm saying, but gangs, you know what I'm saying, there's some forms of criminal activity. We have resiliency there, but in the era that we was coming up in, the migration of the Crip and Blood coming up out of Los Angeles, they kind of hit my city. Like one of the first cities, actually, it was the first city that they hit when they migrated out of Los Angeles. And what we know is that crack was allowed into our communities, right? And the allowance of the communities was also the subsequent war on drugs also took place as well. So that brought a whole wave of just like dynamic shifts inside the environment that I was in. So violence was the most dominant behavior inside the environment that I was in. So from family on down to just peers, at one point I adopted violence as my method of being able to survive my environment. And what that did is kind of expose me to the criminal justice system, maybe the first time at age 9. And by age 17, I was incarcerated for a shooting at a parade. It was a gang-related shooting, and we spent 8 years in California Department of Corrections.
All right, so listen, hold on, baby, I'm telling you now. Listen, but before they said pleasure, reward, and reinforcement. Pleasure, reward, and reinforcement. Now you're talking about resilience. But you're also talking about that trauma from what happens when a baby is actually violated. Because now it's connected to this is a pleasure thing that's there. Then it tapped into this actual sex thing, right? The sexual emotional thing. But connected to that stimuli is the actual harm and hurt of being violated, and it's deeply rooted in a whole system that deals with memory. So that thing ain't going anywhere. It's there for a long time.
It was in that environment that I got educated to the science of threats. What I understood was that, you know, I didn't want to be a victim, right? I didn't want to, in my environment, I didn't want to be the one that had to kind of like hide and had to, you know, avoid being hurt. So I picked up, you know, this notion that I had to be the one that hurts, right? I had to master the science of showing individuals that, you know, whatever they do, I'll do more, right? So gangs became that particular methodology. It was when I was in prison that I was exposed to the reality that the real threats wasn't the people who looked like me and the people who was going through the same things as me. There was the conditions and the environment we was living in, right? And I took on the same mentality that I had in the streets, the willingness to fight, and I began to fight those particular conditions. I began to actually learn. I dropped out of school in 8th grade, so I literally learned how to properly read and write in prison. And study, began to educate myself, began to look up terms, language, to be able to articulate, study certain personalities, Hazmat al-Shabazz, Marcus Garvey, individuals like Kwame Nkrumah, you know, Haile Selassie, and was understanding what they was doing to lead, right? Because I wanted to figure out how I was going to be able to actually lead first myself out my condition and then my peers. So you can say that I took on the gang-banging mentality towards changing the conditions of my people.
I used to mentor right in that building right there. Yeah. And right there, that's where we used to have the vocational trade at. And then we used to have the activities right here.
Yeah, we ain't had nothing I know when we was young, we used to do everything.
Yeah.
Like my age group though.
You like what, 32?
I'm 31 now.
30, yeah.
But now we used to do everything. Like they used to take us on trips all the time out the center.
Do you remember
going to Myrtle? We used to go to Myrtle Way.
Do you remember
Charlotte Hornets game? Bobcat.
Yo, I was the first guy.
Yeah.
I was the first guy that took everybody to see their first basketball game, the Bobcats against LA. Do you remember that?
Yep.
I took probably, this was years ago, man.
Yeah,
like 20. Yeah, 20-something people to go see their first basketball game.
We went to the Bobcat.
Yup.
Well, it was something else though.
Yeah, but all of that's gone. All of those programs is gone.